Audi is rounding out its electric SUV lineup with this, the Q6 e-tron. This obviously sits in perfectly between the Q4 e-tron and the larger Q8 e-tron, which was previously only known as the e-tron, but obviously now they have a lot more models. They wanted to differentiate, so the range-topping SUV is the Q8. This is the Q6, and this is the car that's going to give the Q8 a bit of a headache because, well, first of all, it sits on an all-new PPE architecture. I won't bore you with all the details, but it's got a lot of advanced next-gen tech in it. 800-volt architecture. It's got a 100 kilowatt hour gross battery that's just around about 94 kilowatt hours, WLTP range of 625 kilometers, and fast charging 270 kilowatts. This has all of the ingredients you want in a modern electric car. It also looks pretty decent as well. Now, looks are subjective, of course, but I do like how this thing looks. It's got these very ultra sleek LED headlights here. You can do things like change the pattern on them, how they look. You got your main headlights further down, and obviously being electric, it doesn't have as much of a grille here, but Audi has maintained this kind of signature single frame design. It does look more subtle in this color, but go and get this in the glacier white option, for example, and all of this is also white. Some people will like it, some people won't. Your intake is in there. You've got a lot of built-in driver assistance systems as well. This is not just going to look good and go well, this is going to have a lot of really good driver assistance kit in it as well. In terms of range, well, yeah, 625 kilometers WLTP, more than enough for what anyone is ever going to need on a day-to-day basis. And overall, it does look pretty good. When you come along the side here, you've got 21-inch wheels here. I mean, they don't even look that big, but still 21-inch wheels. To make this handle that little bit better as well, they put larger tires on the rear. That's not necessarily going to be great news for owners, but the overall performance is there. The haunches are here. You've got these blisters that come out over the rear haunches. You can really see this when you're driving. And when you come around the back then, you've got a similar light graphic to what we would have seen on the gorgeous e-tron GT. So you can see how the lights come all the way around here. You've got this light bar goes all the way across. It does look pretty good, regardless of whether you're into Audis or not. There's also a lot of really nice details. So these rear lights, for example, they've got this OLED design and it gives us really sharp graphics. You can also then change exactly the lighting signature. So there's a number of different light patterns you can have. There's a lot of personalization available with this thing. Audi has high expectations on it. On the outside, that looks good. Let's have a look inside. Inside the Q6, it's the usual sort of Audi quality that we're used to seeing. Everything feels very well made, very nicely put together, and there are some nice materials. You've got a bit of a mixture here with some kind of leather-like materials. I'm not a fan of this kind of glossy piano black here. It's something that shows up dust and scratches and things like that very easily, but that's really the only bit that's a bit of a negative inside the interior. The center console itself is actually quite nicely done in terms of the amount of space that it offers. You've got a couple of cup holders here. You've got the usual small stubby drive selector, and you've got a slight angle here with your volume control, your starter, and a haptic button for the drive select, which lets you go through all your different driving modes. Ahead of that, there is a little bit of extra space. There's a little cup here, and you can put in a wireless phone charge. You've got two USB-C ports there as well, so that's quite nice. And the way the vents are laid out just here, they're in a great position, so they're going to keep you nice and cool exactly where you want them. The steering wheel is this usual kind of new trait we see from a lot of brands, and Audi in particular. So it's got a flat top and a flat bottom, kind of nubs here on the side, and it does actually feel quite nice. So depending on exactly how you want to hold it, it's fine. And you've got some haptic controls here as well. So you've got heated steering wheel, all your volume, your phones, things on this side on the left end for changing the view on the display. And I want to talk about the display because this car is full of displays. First of all, this has the 3-screen setup. this is an option. They don't all have this, but they do all have this dual OLED display here, which does look very, very impressive, especially the way this curves around here. So in front of the driver, in front of you, you've got an 11.9-inch display. You can do a lot of different things in terms of, showing what different information you want to have on it. You can have your driving data, you can have a lot of different stuff there. You then have this larger 14.5-inch display. Looks really good. There's a latest generation of Audi's operating system on it. It does all work really, really well. Obviously, you can do stuff like mirror your smartphone onto it as well. So if you want to have your Android Auto, your Apple CarPlay, you can do that too. But it's really nice screen in terms of it's really crisp, works really quickly in terms of everything you touch. Super quick. There's zero lag on this, which is really nice, which means that they've in the back here they've put some proper processing power, which is what you need in a car like this. So the whole layout of this looks really nice. It looks very modern. It's very different from what we've seen in past Audis, and really this is a car that steps up the game, moves the game on for Audi when it comes to interiors. They've always been good, but more recently a lot of their cars all kind of started to look the same. This is a departure from that. It really does look different. You've also I can't really show you now, but you've got a fully augmented reality head-up display as well, color, similar to what we've seen in other Volkswagen Group cars. Very nice how it's done. It gives you your arrows will pop up dynamically as you approach a turn. It's really useful. It's not as distracting as it sounds, so I do quite like that, how it works as well. What this has as an option is this extra passenger screen. This is one of the things that separates the Q6 from other Audis. It's the first time they've put a screen in front of the passenger. It's a 10.9-inch display. This is the kind of display a lot of normal cars have as their main display. Audi is using this just for its passenger, and it has all the same infotainment system. So the passenger can use this exactly the same way as you use the main system. They can input a destination, they can do all the different sort of things in terms of controlling the car. They can also do stuff like screen media, stream video content, all that kind of stuff if they want to watch that separately. Interestingly, once you're driving, from a safety perspective, this screen has a privacy function on it. So when I'm sitting here in the driver's seat, when I look across at that screen, once I'm driving, I only see a black screen. Only when you're sitting directly in front can you see the content that's on it. So it's a good safety feature that's built in. It's not going to be a standard feature. It is an option. Certainly in our local market, it's an option, but it is something that people might want to have. It just adds to the whole tech aspect of it. If you don't go for the screen, if you don't opt for the screen, you just get a panel instead of that. So it's not going to look like something's missing. If anything, actually, sometimes from the driver's seat, it looks like a bit of an add-on. Because of how this screen juts out here on the side, it kind of actually cuts off the corner here. So it does sometimes from the driver's seat look like a bit of an add-on. But overall, yeah, the quality inside here is very, very good. It's very comfortable. The seats have a nice bit of support in them, both under your legs and the sides as well. One other neat feature that I found was that the seats themselves have speakers built in. So as I was driving along, the navigation commands, as they were called out, didn't come through all the speakers in the car. They came from behind me. Now, it's not like a backseat driver, but it just gives you a different sensation of audio when you're driving along. So that's another feature that's inside. In terms of practicality, this has an electrically adjustable steering wheel. There's a lot of adjustment there for reach or rake, so you can move it in and out, up and down, over quite a wide field, depending on how you want to get comfortable. And you've also got things like paddles on the back here for adjusting the regen. There's 3 different states of regen. You can have it in a coasting, one sort of level of regen, and then the strongest, which gives you a one pedal driving feel. A couple of other things I just want to touch on. You've got extra storage here underneath. That's useful. Nice size armrest. The doors themselves, they do have this kind of nice wraparound design. So you've got this dashboard that comes all the way around here. You've got ambient lighting that runs all the way along, and it runs in here. All the materials that you touch here all feel really nice. Like, you really have to go looking if you want to try and find some not nice plastic inside. But on the driver's door, you have this extra panel, which is a haptic panel here, and it's very useful for doing all stuff like your mirrors, your seat functions, your child locks. It's quite good how it's done. But when you have the door open, normally you would reach to pull a door closed in this area, but this fully takes up the arm pull. So you got to reach out a little bit further, and if your door is all the way open, it means you got to lean out that little bit further. It's kind of an interesting design how they've done it, but it does make it slightly less practical, and I'm not sure I like that. But overall, the whole layout here in the front, it's very impressive. It looks good, it looks modern, it looks fresh. It's an Audi, and Audi have gotten back to doing great interiors again. Now, this is also a family car, so let's check out the back seats. In the back, there's a lot of room in the Q6, and that's one of the big appeals of this car, certainly over the Q4. Part of that is because this car has quite a long wheelbase. It's a little bit less than 3 meters, but it means the space between the front and the rear wheels is quite long. And one of the benefits of that is for those who are sitting in the rear seats. So there's a reasonable amount of knee room here. I've got quite a bit. This is pretty good, I think, for the segment. And actually, even the way the seats are shaped means that if you do want to stretch out a little bit more, your knees are never going to be touching. You can also get your feet in underneath the seat in front as well. So if you do want to stretch out a little bit more, you can actually get your feet in underneath, which is quite nice. And I've a very good amount of headroom here. Now, I'm pretty average height. I'm only about 5'9", but still, that's a pretty good amount of headroom here. It feels spacious. Now, I know this doesn't have a panoramic glass roof with this particular car, but still, it's good amount of space in here, and it feels airy as well. You've got decent sized windows here. The actual window ledge is not particularly high, so even the younger kids sitting in the back, they'll still be able to see out. And if you do want a bit of privacy, you can also hook up a sun visor there as well, so that'll help keep a little bit of privacy and keep some of the heat out. It is actually quite practical back here too. You've got nets on the backs of the seats, which you'd sort of expect. You've got decent sized door bins here, so you'll easily be able to get a drinks bottle in here, and I probably need to get 2 in fact in there. You've got proper window switches for dropping down the rear windows. You got some Bang & Olufsen speakers here as well, and the seats themselves are quite wide. Even the middle seat, it does have a good bit of width. Now, you do lose out if you're sitting in the middle seat, obviously, because of the back of this center console here with the built-in ventilation. You do lose out a little bit of leg room here, and interestingly, it isn't a completely flat floor in the back here. You do have a little bit of a hump just here. It's not too bad, but that does kind of limit the amount of foot room you're going to have if you're sitting in the middle seat. So it's really best to view this from an adult perspective of very comfortably seating 4 people. 5 people, it will be a little bit cozy, but if you don't want to have that middle seat in use, as usual, you can pop down an armrest. You've got a couple of cup holders there as well, so that's quite useful. And obviously you've got both of the 2 outer seats have Isofix points mounted in them, so it's very easy to get in, get a child seat fitted in if you need to do that. You can also do it on the front passenger seat as well. Like its bigger brother, the Q8 e-tron, the Q6 also has chargers on both sides. Now on this side, it's an 11 kilowatt AC charger, but on this side, when you come around, you've got an extra charge port. And this is where you have your DC charger as well as an AC charger. So you can just pop that down. Maximum is 270 kilowatts, which means that you can add over 200 kilometers of range in just over 10 minutes. It's electrically operated, by the way, very nice. And overall, going from 10 to 80% charge, you're looking at a little over 20 minutes. So this thing is going to be a charging champion. You also get quite a good amount of boot space, 526 litres in fact. And if you need even more, you can drop down the rear seats. They have a 40-20-40 split. And when you drop them down, you've got a total of 1,529 litres of cargo volume. Furthermore, if you open up the front, you've got an extra 64 litres of storage, which is great for a small bag or your charging cables. first things first, the Q6 is a very quiet car on the move. Even on these large 21-inch wheels, the amount of sound suppression inside the car from both road noise and tire noise, and even from the powertrain itself, is nothing short of impressive. And it should be. This is a premium SUV, and it does feel premium in every sense in terms of how it handles itself on the road, how it feels to steer. It does feel, even on an initial first drive, like quite a complete package. It all just works very well. The suspension, this is the optional air suspension that's in this. We haven't had an opportunity to drive it on the standard passive setup, which uses FSD, or frequency selective damping. So we can only give you an idea of what it's like with the optional air suspension, and it does work very, very well. There is a noticeable difference when you switch between the different driving modes. So if you go between comfort, it is that bit plusher. It just nicely lopes along. The dynamic mode obviously sharpens everything up. The steering gets a little bit more feel to it, but so too does the suspension. It firms up that little bit more, and you will get, you know, a little bit of a firmer ride, but also a little bit of patter as well. We're on some pretty decent country roads today, decent tarmac on it, but you always had that little bit of patter, and it's enough to almost make you switch back out of your dynamic mode into a comfort mode. Now, in comfort mode, you're not suddenly switching to heaps of body roll. This is a composed car at all times, and that's really the thing that gives this a bit of an edge over some of its predecessors, like the e-tron. The Q8 e-tron always felt a little bit heavy, you know, it just didn't kind of have that sort of sharp edge. This is no surgical instrument here, but it definitely feels a lot lighter on its feet, a little bit more nimble, a bit more agile. And when you put it into a corner, it just loads up nicely on the outer side. Just has a nice feel to it. It feels really grippy, you know. That's the thing you want to have. A lot of people want that sense of security with a car like this, and this does have that. Feels nailed to the road, very planted, but it does also have an abundance of power and performance, more than enough for what you'll ever need. And let's not forget, there's also still an even faster, more powerful SQ6 e-tron. This standard one with the Quattro is absolutely fine though. Wonderful amounts of performance, silky smooth power delivery as well, as we've come to expect from electric cars. This doesn't disappoint in that regard. But also when it comes to that power, it's very good at recuperating energy as well. Audi has done a lot of work to make this as efficient as possible, and engineers reckon that as much as 95% of the time you won't use the friction brakes at all. You'll only be using the electric motors to recuperate energy and slow the car down. Well, as first impressions go, the Q6 has certainly made a good one. It's going to be a bit of a headache for its larger brother, the Q8 e-tron, that's for sure. It is a very good package though. If you want to know more about this car, head over to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie. You'll find it linked in the description below, and it's a great resource for finding your next new car and keeping up with all the latest car news. We'd also love to hear from you, so please do get involved in the comments below and tell us what you think. And in the meantime, it's just left for me to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.